Hey there, Exiles. It's been a while. I hope everybody's doing well. Today, I want to make a video about my new favorite build this league, the Voltaxic Lightning Arrow Poison Pathfinder. Let's run a quick map, and I'll talk about the build afterwards. So this was a build I knew I wanted to play as soon as I saw the Voltaxic changes and the Pathfinder updates. I started off playing Poison TS. It was fun, but obviously TS doesn't work with Vengeance, so the FOMO was really getting to me. But then I was lucky enough to find a Voltaxic with the good attack speed Crucible tree. I'll show you that in a minute. Which then basically gives you way more attack speed than you can ever normally get on a Voltaxic Rift, making it feel much better to play. So as soon as I got that, I just instantly swapped over. And let me tell you, it is game-changing. Poison TS is fun, but just this is so smooth. I mean, and that's without even pressing Vol Lightning Arrow. Let's do a Crucible just to show that... off. Yeah, Vol Lightning Arrow is ridiculous for stuff like this. Fully charged. No bad. Initially I was worried about the coverage, but you really do just hit behind you as well with how Vengeance works. And the returning projectiles pierce everything, so it's just shotguns behind you. I mean, not actually shotguns, but still hits behind you. I've always liked the elemental to poison builds. It's just so much easier to stack flat elemental damage than it is to stack fizz or chaos. Spent at least 10 divines trying to craft a good poison thicket bow. So hard to get T1 flat. Or I mean, you use essence fizz and then you try to hit T1 chaos and then a good fizz prefix, which is a pain in the ass, let me tell you. Just dumb because I can just buy Voltaxic, slap on a Wrath, essence craft a quiver really quick, and all of a sudden I've got twice as much flat damage as I ever possibly could have. Not to mention Lightning Arrow coming with a ton of flat lightning built in. The same concept as Poison Lightning Strike, really. Let's do meta really quick. Okay. Alright, so this is a pretty generic Poison Pathfinder tree. It's a little bit higher budget. I'm going for the large thread of hope here. Helps me get the highest value nodes, extra arrows, pierce, after the eagle, etc. Still pathing all the way up here for double curse and int. We need 159 int, I think it is, for 21 wrath. Yeah, 159 int, so basically have to path up here. Otherwise you need to get fancy crafting gear. The PoE DPS, pretty meh. I mean, it's poison, It's like a million-ish for lightning arrow, and I'm shooting 5 times a second. And then I'm also doing Mana Forge tech, which I think is pretty cool. Mana Forged arrow, lightning arrow, frenzy. Then I've attached a colon innervate. Lightning arrow is great just because it has so much flat built in. It's still a good amount of damage. Frenzy for frenzy charges, but then alt quality gives you 15% increased damage, which is actually pretty significant for poison builds. Culling, obvious utility, 48% increased is a non-zero amount. So then you add that on top of Divergent Innervate, so it's always up while clearing. And then I hit so much that it's very consistently up on bosses as well. So this is a massive amount of flat damage that's not easy to get otherwise. You could always put it in your main links, but I feel like you're making some sacrifices there. Obviously, I'm not using ballistas or anything like that. Main reason being Vol Lightning Arrow exists. So I think with this skill combination between Vol Lightning Arrow and then the Mana Forge setup, you're getting a pretty significant single target spike. You are not only stacking poisons quickly, but then with Pathfinder and Wither, these are roughly, at least 10 more hits per second between each of these. It triggers on cooldown pretty much as I'm attacking. I don't have mana, obviously, but when I'm hitting things, I always have mana. So these are basically proccing on cooldown. So we're stacking poisons quickly, and we're also stacking Withers. The main thing that's cool about Voltaxic is, of course, it lets you shock. So now on top of already really strong Withers, I'm getting between 20 and 30% shocks on rare mobs. So you see here this is a 1.89 attack speed. This comes from the increased attack speed less global damage mod from Crucible. This is actually, I'm going to make it over here, sorry. From the increased damage less, increased attack speed less global damage mod. This is actually one of probably the most OP mods they've released in Crucible. This is just so powerful for attack builds, and especially on weapons with like low attack speed. This is a spine bow, and I've got almost 2 APS on it. In theory, if I divined this and then got the attack speed quality enchant, I'm pretty sure I could get it to 2 APS. But I've got some other things I need to repair first. Yeah, so additional arrow, flat damage, elemental damage. I just got lucky, hit this. It's pretty garbage, honestly, but I really was just looking for the high percent damage as well as a good flat. Helmet, implicits, and enchants are okay. I went with percent lightning damage just because that'll help scale the poisons better. The hitting additional targets is nice, but doesn't really matter as much for me because I'm poisoned and I'm proliferating poisons and I'm also exploding. The suffixes are okay. Honestly, I'm going to need to recraft this eventually. But it works for now. I was able to get the unveiled higher version of his taken as, which is nice. Really helps with mitigation. Also opted for the no life chest, so I could use the 15% life mastery. As you can see, I'm not using an evasion flask, but I do still run Grace. So getting as much evasion where I can does help. Ass and Ass, of course. I'm using kind of a hipster synthesized belt here. I really like being immune to everything it can be. And in terms of just like actually being unaffected by bleeds, this is one of the cleanest ways. Now, I obviously need to recraft this. Flask prefixes would be preferable. I already have permanent uptime on my elemental flasks and my quicksilver, but if I got flask mods on this, this would go from like 60 to maybe 70% uptime, so I'm not as worried about that. Boots, pretty generic. We're going for ailment avoidance via Ancestral Vision. this thing. So with 100% suppression, we get 50% avoidance. So then we have 30 from this wheel, or 20 from this wheel, and then 30 on boots for 100% element avoidance. Then Corrupting Blood. I got Corrupting Blood and phasing on this duel. Life and effective chill, pretty convenient. I get chill from Word of Spite, which is actually an attack, so it works with Vengeance Cascade, which is interesting, and gives pretty good chilled ground coverage whenever I get hit. It's nice. Then, let's see, so in terms of Pathfinder, you have a few different options for defense. I'm obviously going for the Fizz taken as elemental. I'm converting about 50-ish, 45, 50% of physical damage taken to elemental. Then running, of course, triple elemental flasks for mitigation. Then I have an Immortal Call setup, which lasts about 2 seconds, and that's pretty consistent because I have an endurance charge ring, so I'm always using those last 2 charges. So enduring Immortal Call is lasting longer and has good effect. Then, of course, I will always have that consistent 1, which helps protect from Fizz hits. I'm running Lunaris, since I'm doing generally juicier maps. There's lots of enemies around me, so that's pretty consistently around 10 to 15% Fizz mitigation, which is actually better since I'm converting half of it. So there's not only half of the amount of Fizz that needs to be mitigated, so percent and armor would be stronger. I'm not really worrying about armor. Abrath for just more immunities, of course. I'm getting curse immunity here, and then poison on my ruby flask. One thing, you could also get stun on your flasks. I opted for the boot enchant, and then you could, of course, go for the stun jewel tech, Blood Notch and Immutable Force. But sockets are pretty starved on this build, and it was just, I had this base, so I just opted for stun immunity. Now, this character is almost level 98. I'm just been having a blast. It's fast, it's tanky, can kill pretty much anything. You saw I'm running GMP in my main links, but I can swap in Void Manip if I want to have better single target damage. Works pretty well. I think I'm going to be taking this one to 100. I really like this character. I like how it plays. It's just so comfortable. I can run pretty much all the map mods. Oh, I didn't talk about clusters. Right now, I'm only running a medium with basically just Spike Concoction and then Life. Alchemist Genius is really great. An added benefit of running flasks that have a different duration is that you have a much better uptime on Alchemist Genius. Because when all your elemental flasks are popping, because it goes off every time, but we can see here, then it goes off again when these go off. So you've almost 100% uptime standing in hideout, which is great. But one thing I do want to work on is I have a large cluster, so I'm going to switch just for large, then add that. But in order to switch to a large cluster, I would need to drop all of this. And that's a lot of int that I would need to make up, as well as a couple other things. So there's still a lot to do on this character. I really like it. This isn't really a guide or anything. I'm just doing these video character blogs for posterity, but if you're interested, I'll post a POB. I'm gonna be making some more videos. This is just such a fun character. I'm gonna see how far I can push it, and then I think I got some dumb ideas that I want to do on some other stuff. So keep an eye on the channel. I'm gonna be streaming occasionally on Twitch. I'll put my links there as well. Like, follow, subscribe, share, and I'll see y'all next time.